I'll start with a quick review for this book or course. I'll refer this as a book, thinking about cybersecurity from cybercrime to cyber warfare. I'll give this book 3 out of 5. It's kind of like your average book. There is some good information there as he explains all the details and how cyber warfare works, all the vulnerabilities we have, and goes a little bit about some questions. He investigates some questions about what is or how it should be done. But I feel like there is not enough information there. I think it could be explained better in some parts. In some parts of some of the lectures, it's divided into lectures, but some of the lectures were not as interesting or engaging. Let's see the notes. First one is every device with internet connection is ultimately on the wide web. So the World Wide Web, the WWW, any connection, any device that has internet connection is basically on there. The accessibility of the web is also the catalyst for hacking. Just the fact that we have that accessibility also means that we are vulnerable for attacks. One way to solve the identity issue is requiring a notification upon going online. So the problem that we don't know who is who online. There's a problem of anonymity, and one way to solve that is by requiring a notification. Nigerian scams self-select people who are easy to scam. So you always ask, like, who falls for that? The thing is that it self-select, because whoever is not, are not falling for it, but some people do. If a private company cuts off communication, would that be considered insurgency? So that's an interesting question he raises about what happens if a private company cuts off communication to a specific channel altogether, for example, Facebook or things like that. Would that be considered insurgency? Which is an interesting question to ponder. What constitutes address information and what's the actual information is complicated in the cyberspace. Unlike letters, the address tells a lot. There's a problem as that you or should you not be allowed to publish the address of someone, because the online address is not the same as a physical address. Physical address tells you something, but the digital address tells you much more than that. And the question is, what constitutes address information? It's another interesting question. As one said, privacy is dead, get over it. Just like the quote, privacy is dead, just get over it. There is not much to do about it anymore. There are ample amounts of vulnerabilities in hardware, especially those who come from overseas. So the hardware itself could be exploited as it has vulnerabilities, especially I think he brings an example from things from China, devices from China have more vulnerabilities and could pose a risk. There is no Microsoft patch for gullibility. That's just funny. Is that the problem is that there is no gullibility, and that's something that Microsoft or any other company cannot easily eliminate. Apple devices are not less prone for attacks; they're just less common. So there's an idea that Apple devices don't have viruses and things like that. So what the thing is that it's not that there is no viruses and they're less prone to attacks. It's just that there is less devices, and hackers usually prefer to have more devices to attack, which makes the probability higher. So, but it's actually rising, as he says. There is more cases of viruses and other attacks on Apple devices. It could be that instead of making systems impenetrable, we should design systems for resiliency where even if a failure happens, we can rebuild fast. So we shouldn't aim for impenetrability. So a system cannot be penetrated. We should design systems to be resilient. So if something happens, we can go with it, go around it, and live with it. That could be a better way. Malware should be treated similar to biological viruses and in the way we handle them. We said it should be treated similarly to viruses, with quarantining devices that are affected, and very similar measures we take with biological viruses we should do with digital ones. Cyber war is not bound to time and space. That's the problem that the cyber warfare is posing, is that it does not bound time and space. Usually a regular war, for example, he brings the example of a rocket that could take quite a few minutes to arrive, and you can see it in radars and things like that. But cyber warfare does not. It can happen during the night, it can happen in the day, it can happen instantaneously. You don't have warnings and things like that. We need to think about what to do when systems fail, because successful cyber attacks are inevitable. So we need to think about what to do when a cyber attack does happen on fundamental and important infrastructure, for example. What do we do then? Because he says it's a matter of time. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. Therefore, we should have to think about what to do when those systems do fail. One idea proposes two different internets. One more secure when you must identify yourself. The other is what we are using right now. So that's an interesting idea, to have two different internets in a way. One of them is for banking and important information, and in that internet you have to identify yourself, and that everyone knows who's who. The other one is just what we have right now, more anonymity, but that would pose less risk for our fundamental infrastructure, or for essential infrastructure like banking and things like that. That is for the notes. Again, there are some interesting parts, but overall I wasn't it wasn't the best book, so that's why it's a 3 out of 5. Thank you.